Latinos anden despertando. Abre los ojos para ver lo que está
Everybody
pasando.
vamos, put up your manos. Members of Tanto United, Chicanos, Latinos, and los Estados Unidos. Don't care if you're Ricans or even Cubanos. Look at our coaches. We have more in common, don't let them divide. These suckers are vultures. Either we standing together or better be standing aside. Now was the time, don't know about you, but I'm gonna ride. We gotta climb, fight for your Vegas, but where was your pride? Where were the gunners that you got inside? Look how our ancestors came to this country. They tried to be living the American dream. Don't throw it away. They promise you money and catch your aging for the machine. Pick a new team, you flesh socialism, but that is a system that you wanna bring. You need to think, we gotta fight communism, cause it looks like we on the brink. Connect on the links, so one party system is taking the power from all of the people. We need to think, when will you listen? These people are evil and won't treat us equal, so what is your plan? Hand in hand, we're standing together, cause it's our never to do what you can. Please understand, we gotta do better, so walkers remember that we took a stand. Escúchame, 24 es el año, si se puede. Lucha, lucha por la libertad. Órale, vamos.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Latino Free Minds, episode 36. Daniel here with Danny. How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Cool.
Just getting October kicked off.
Yeah, it's already October.
I know.
On Sunday, I was like, it's October 1st.
Yeah, starting to see all the Halloween decorations and all that stuff.
I went into where did I go into today? I went into a Hobby Lobby, and it's like all Christmased out. I was like,
Nice.
Man, I feel like I'm late, but I'm not even. We're not even there yet.
No, we've seen some crazy decorations in houses, man. It's not like when we were little kids. The houses that were spooky they don't compare to anything like what's going on right now. It's like they got a budget for decorations. It's like a movie budget, to decorate, their houses. So
For
they
real.
go all out.
Yeah. You definitely see that nowadays. But I just want to say, we had Matt on the last episode, so we got a lot of views on our last episode. So thanks to everybody that has tuned into that episode. And if you haven't, go check it out. It was a pretty good conversation. And then we gained also a lot of new subscribers. So everyone that joined the channel, thanks for tuning in, and hope you guys stay on and share the show. So, yeah, man. But back to what we were talking about, the people go all out. It's for everything in general. You see decorations for pretty much every holiday, right? So I don't know. That's the thing now.
It's the thing to do.
I struggle to put up Christmas lights. You know what I mean? But everybody does it every month. Something's changing.
Yeah. It's kind of surprising though. It's like a lot of people just wait for this time of the year, and they go all gung ho with their decorations. It's crazy to see the commitment that they have just to get that done. And I get it, the kids like it and stuff like that, but I don't know. Some of these adults are like, I don't know. They seem like big little kids when it comes
they're still kids.
to this. Yeah. But I can't talk. I've never been the type to, go all out and decorate like that.
Yeah.
But
no, I haven't either. But I guess the biggest news that broke while we were since last week to now is that they removed McCarthy. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that, just to kind of give like a little thought on that, I think it was the right move, because I don't think he wasn't pulling through on the stuff that basically he had promised to make him the speaker. So I think that him getting removed kind of is a good way to put everybody on notice, right? That you have to be if you're gonna be in government, be a leader, you got to be a person of your word. So I think it's a good thing. We'll see how it shakes out. Um, I've been seeing like I think Jim Jordan was
Mhm.
probably one of the top candidates for that, but we'll see what happens. I think it's necessary. And then one thing that I kind of figured would happen was that the Republicans that didn't want to remove McCarthy would start gaslighting people. And they're coming at that angle with like, oh, something's wrong when you vote with all the Democrats. And it's like, well, I there's a big difference, right? All the Democrats vote against McCarthy because, well, they're partisan. It's a party thing. They probably do want power. And the huge difference is that the Republicans that voted against McCarthy is an accountability thing, not just to to be on the same side as Democrats. So I kind of saw that they would be gaslighting on that. I don't know if you saw any of that.
No, I just saw that they were kind of jumping on board to show how divided the Republicans are, type of
Mhm.
thing. But I think it's gonna backfire. I don't know if a lot of people remember that they had a hard time, getting McCarthy in because he had to uh, agree to things that he was going to be doing if they did vote him in. And I
Mhm.
don't know how many times they went to vote, but I think it was,
I think it was 18.
yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of back and forth, and everybody knew that he was a rhino, anyways. So I don't think if you pay attention, I don't think it's a big surprise.
Mhm.
I know that this is the first time in history that this has happened, so they really don't know what to expect or know what to do really. Obviously, they have to vote, someone in. But now the Republicans put a lot of pressure on themselves because they have to vote someone in that is going to be hard nosed. You know what I mean? They're going to look foolish if another rhino comes in and takes his spot
Yeah.
and isn't hard nosed. Getting after the things that um, the Freedom Caucus says that they want to do.
Mhm.
So they put a lot of pressure on themselves at the same time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, when he initially got selected, it did take some time, and then that's one of the things that, in order, I think, for him to get the votes, they did put that in place where they could motion to vacate if they felt something was if he wasn't
Mhm.
cutting it. So as soon as I kind of knew that, I was kind of just expecting to, all right, when is it gonna happen? Like I said, I'm not surprised. But it was Matt Gates. He brought it up, and you know, they they got it through. I think from what I understand, on I think this Wednesday is when they kind of start either nominating or that vote round. So like I said, I saw Jim Jordan was one of the candidates. I think Byron Donalds, and I think I saw what's his name, Steve Scalise was gonna also try for it. I don't know about him. He was kind of close to McCarthy, so you know, he's. I think he's kind of one of those iffy ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's tough. The only thing that I could say is they put a lot of pressure on themselves.
Hmm.
So let's see what happens. They're gonna whoever comes in has to be, like I said, hard nosed when it comes to really defining what the Republican Party wants to do. In what
Hmm.
direction they're gonna go.
Hmm.
Because if they voted him out, there's no way that they could get someone in that's going to be heading in that same direction.
Oh no,
You
yeah,
know, so
we're they'll end up in the same scenario in a month or two.
yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, so there's there's just like one clip of Matt Gates from when he was doing his speech as far as why to remove McCarthy, and I'm just gonna play this clip. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll play it and then just kind of get your reaction on it.
Comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, oh, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time, and you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.
Yeah, I heard about that, and he's right. I mean, if he's laying groundwork, to set a rule that these politicians can't accept donations from corporations and lobbyists and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's awesome. You know, I don't see that happening, but I mean, he's talking about it,
Yeah.
and it's
I
always a possibility that he might be setting the groundwork for it to be set up that way. To change the rules that way.
Yeah, no, I think him saying it like kind of shines a light to it, and I think because he said it, I think he is right. I think more of regular normal people, not no corporation elites or whatever, would be more willing to be like, okay, yeah, I'll donate $10 to Matt Gates, and you
Mhm.
have millions of people that go, okay, yeah, I'll donate to his campaign because from what it looks like, he's fighting for the people, right? To have these single issue bills so that we're not passing these big old what they call them omnibus that have
Omnibus, yeah.
thousands of pages and no time to read them. You know, stop funding other people's countries when our country is kind of you know going down the drain. So I think him doing that, I think he's going to gain more support for sure because it seems as though he is trying to fight for the better of the people.
What's crazy is that what he's saying is common sense.
Yeah.
And knowing that if you think about it, it is common sense. It's crazy that a lot of people don't pay attention, to the fact that a lot of these politicians and their campaigns are being financed by corporations and lobbyists, and it's not the actual people, that are
Mhm.
funding them. And it's crazy to imagine that in this world, in this country, people are okay with that. And him
Yeah.
just going up there and saying it, I don't know. Like you said, I hope number one, it gains more support. It shines light, to everyday people out there
Hmm.
that are hopefully paying more attention now that they ever have in the past about politics and stuff like that. So I don't know. I can't really articulate and explain um, how crazy that is. Is that
Yeah.
what he's saying is common sense, and then and that's allowed is freaking crazy. It's like, what do we expect when these people are being funded by corporations and lobbyists? Is they're their puppets. Period.
Yeah.
You know they're gonna do what they want them to do. Period. That is common sense. And then we act surprised when they don't do what the people want,
Yeah.
and they don't follow through the promises that got them elected. That's
Hmm.
insane.
No, and that's why, in a sense, that's why I like seeing that happened because it's like, all right, you didn't follow through, you're out. I mean, it should. You would hope you would wish it to be like that in all government positions, local, federal, whatever. Right? If you're not doing what you said you're gonna do, you know, you're out. You got to go because you probably ran on something and you're not delivering. And the people that put their trust in you, that you only get one vote, and you put your one vote towards this person because they said they're going to do X thing and they didn't do it, then they've taken advantage of you as the voter, and they didn't deliver, right? It's kind of like how you said it last week, right? You look at it as a consumer, right? Or even in this case, I guess it's more like if you're the owner and you hired someone to do a job for your company, right? And in this case, your company is either your state, your city, and all that. And as you would in any job, if that person isn't performing, isn't doing their job, isn't capable of doing their job, then you let them go, and then you look for the next person that's gonna do the hopefully do the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, in other words, you're fired. Straight up.
hmm yeah, I
So
mean,
we've been kind of talking about that in the last few episodes, if not more. It's like, hey, you're not delivering um, on what you said, on your promises, and what you're supposed to be doing. You're not delivering on what we want done.
mhm,
You know what your job is supposed to be. So you're fired. You're done. That's it.
yeah,
Next.
mhm.
So
And hopefully you hire the most qualified candidate because that doesn't even happen. You know,
well,
because I mean, well, we had the obviously we had Feinstein. She passed away. She was a senator for California. We live in California. The whole her voting the day before she passed, that's crazy to me. Um, they're just using a body, right? Uh, using a vote, and Newsom, he kind of beforehand had already said he was going to nominate a black woman. So, Feinstein passes away. So what does he do? He nominates a black woman that, from what I've been seeing, doesn't even live in California. So, you know, that kind of stuff too is stuff that has to. I don't know if is it because the people are allowing it. You know what I mean? Like we can't allow that. Like we have to find a way to like that should not be that shouldn't be accepted, right? That should be a disqualifying factor in being a senator. It's like, wait, you don't live there? It's like you can't be each state only gets two senators, right? It's like you can't not live in the state and then your vote goes towards whatever federal laws we put in place. Like that's I don't know. That should be disqualified.
well, it goes back to the comment I made is that, what Matt Gates said. It's freaking common sense. What you're saying is common sense, but it's allowed.
Hmm
To have a conversation about how it's allowed and why it happens and stuff like that is a waste of time because common sense says that it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
So people should be in an uproar. Are people in an uproar? Maybe they are speaking against it, but we don't see it on TV. We don't see it in social media or anything like that.
hmm
So you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing's gonna happen. They're doing the same thing. Is mainstream media isn't reporting on it. It's okay. So what are people gonna think that it's okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nobody talks
we
about it.
just we just have to bring attention to it. It's crazy, but there's um there's a lot of good things happening. For example, the whole McCarthy thing being
Mhm.
voted out. That is a
That's
good thing.
positive.
Yeah,
I look at it as a good thing.
that's positive. So we just have to keep doing that. So maybe now that people see that something can happen if there's enough pressure, enough people talking about it,
hmm
we start getting these people out of here. Maybe after Matt Gates stepping up and saying something about it, and actually voting him out, maybe uh, Newsom gets a bunch of pressure, and he has to start doing the right thing because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a bold move, but it's a good move as far as like accountability, right? I feel
Mhm.
like in government there hasn't really been any accountability at all, right? So, you know, we just gotta eh, the country has to head in that direction where we're putting people in a position that are gonna do what's in the best interest of the people. And that's
Mhm.
something that we've said from the get. It's like they have to stop putting their party, you know, ahead of the people. And a lot of them have a tough time that, because one of the things I've been seeing is like, oh, this is bad for the Republican Party. It's like, who cares? It's like it's good for the people, you know. I don't care if it's bad for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. It's if it's good for the people and it's gonna help us out when you know what I mean? Like when we're in a situation like we are now with the administration that we have, it's like then yeah, that's good. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, but I go back to who are these people saying that? It's the
Yeah,
same people that are trying to tell you that.
it's the same rhino.
Yep, exactly, exactly. So, uh, to be honest with you, people that say that type of stuff, it's like you're irrelevant. You're not convincing me. You're not manipulating me. It's
Yeah, yeah,
so hopefully, other people aren't falling for that same trap, and I don't think that they are, to be honest with you.
hmm
So there's a lot of people, looking at the truth and seeing what's happening in today's environment and opening their eyes. So
yeah. I saw a news report that Ukraine was worried because of the because McCarthy goes removed from speakership.
they
So
should be. They should be.
no
You
more
know.
money, no more free money.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Is that they try to play the guilt trip? Is there's people suffering over there, and there's this X, Y, and Z happening over there. And
hmm
it's like, people have to have a backbone and stand up and say, well, let's look at our situation here in the United States and bring up all the people that are suffering, that are homeless, that are, you know, in poverty, can't, find a job, um, can't provide for their families, period.
hmm
And let's talk about them first before we can help someone else.
Anybody else out? Yeah,
Mhm. And it's
exactly.
not even about helping us first, it's helping others here first,
hmm
and then let's help others outside of the United States after.
Yeah,
you know
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. Because it's how I think you put it this way already too. But it's like how is it that we're funding to support another country's border and our border is just you know in the shape that it's in. So even in that sense, it doesn't make sense. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that with the amount of money that they're sending out there, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of things that we can fix out here or help out here that would help stabilize the economy or help people out in general, make things you know I don't know, like here in California, right? We pay all kinds of taxes with DMV, gas, and all that stuff. And it's like it's supposed to go to the roads and all that other stuff. And I think we talked about it before. And it's like, well, all these roads are still all jacked up. Maybe we use some of that money, fix some of these roads, and we don't have to be taxed as much. I don't know. Just a idea, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but that makes too much sense. We go back to that problem that it makes sense. So
Yeah.
you can't rip people off when you're doing common sense things. It'll
Mhm.
be too, everything would be so good. It's like, what the hell are you taxing us for even more? It's like things aren't working, let's tax you more. And then
Yeah.
when they tax you more and things still aren't working, we need to tax you some more. It's it's a it's a it's like a mental health problem. It's like, let's go back to square one. Just think pragmatically, think, use common sense logic, and we won't we won't be in the situations that we're in right now.
Yeah.
It but we go back, and it's the same thing over and over. It's the same pattern. It's like, we're over here trying to make, talk, have a conversation with common sense
hmm
and logic, and that's exactly what they don't do on purpose. So it's like, we're just in a way talking circles,
Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying.
but there's a lot of people running out there that actually do want to make a difference, and
Hmm.
you just got to pay attention. There's a lot of people talking about actually helping the people, helping the communities,
Hmm.
um, going back to doing things based on their morals and their beliefs and stuff like that. And it kind of goes back to, I guess it's a good segue to what I was talking to you about earlier today is
Hmm.
you know in today's in current environment and the way that people are growing up through school, popular culture, um, is they're losing their faith
Hmm.
more and more. I was looking up, I did a quick search, Hispanics losing faith. And amongst Hispanics, there's like people born after the 80s are falling away from their faith, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And I started thinking about that, and I was like, well, yeah, it makes sense. You go to school, they try to replace faith with, you know, science,
Hmm.
or fake science, like climate change and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and psychologists and things like that. And I know a lot of people are thinking that they believe that that's actually a good thing, because you want to follow science, and you want to be mentally healthy. So you're going to see a psychologist or therapist
Therapist.
or whatever. And I'm not saying that that's all there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is that they're eliminating that faith portion and replacing it solely with that. So then you have a bunch of people, that don't practice a religion or faith,
Hmm.
and we kind of get into a situation where, what is it that they're believing? What are the struggles when people don't have faith, or
Hmm.
religion in their life?
Hmm.
So you kind of start, you know, seeing, in my opinion, you start seeing a lot of the problems that you do see now and day.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. Because there's something to, like, believing in a higher being, right? Believing in God, reading the Bible, and trying to live your life, through the commandments, because it helps you be, from my experience growing up, right? It helps you be a more responsible person. uh you're not out there trying to do anything where you're harming people. You're not breaking laws. You're doing your best to be a good citizen, right? To be a good overall person. And because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we're not here for long. And believing in that once you're gone, you're gonna meet God. You're gonna be in heaven. Like, that's that leads towards a more, how could I put it, more like fulfilling life, where you're, like, again, you're doing your best to be a good person throughout your life.
Yeah.
And you value, you put more value in your relationship with God. You put more value in the relationship you have with your family. And that's the important thing. But a lot of the people that are missing that nowadays, it's like, yeah, like I was saying, is there's a void there. Whatever effort or energy was going to go potentially into that, just goes somewhere else, kind of like you stated, like climate change, right? Because that's kind of, to some extent, yeah, it gets sort of religious, right? People are panicking, paranoid, thinking they know when the world's going to end, and just people living in fear, um and not in faith, right? Because someone with faith would understand. It's like, all right, we don't know, the world could end tomorrow. We don't know, right? But we don't go living in fear, even though it's a possibility the world can end tomorrow, right? We don't know, but we don't live with that fear because we know we're here today. We have faith in God that He's with us, and that no matter what happens, He's gonna, you know, be with us. There's a um oh man, I'm going blank. But basically, God won't put you through anything that you can't get through.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of, making a correlation with what we were talking about politically, and whether there's belief, like if you have religion in your life, or faith in your life, is the comparison that I could make is this: is that okay? So we have people representing us, and they're lying to us, they're stealing from us,
Mhm,
and we're just accepting it. Why are we accepting that? So we have these people that don't have morals, they're not following through with their word, number one. But if we live our lives that way, whether it's religion, your faith, is makes that strong within you, then you're
mhm,
going to expect that from other people. So someone could say is that we're accepting that because that's absent in our life, and it's okay for them to do that, and we accept it. That could be a correlation there.
mhm. Yeah.
you know um the other thing too is that a lot of people go, I've heard this argument too, is that why should I believe in dogma, things that in religion really can't be proved, supposedly can't be proven, we're just supposed to accept and
Mhm,
believe. And it's like I could say the same thing about politics and scientists.
mhm.
Is it real science? I mean, they've been talking about climate, global cooling in the 70s, then warming all throughout the 90s, and then
Now it's climate
climate
change.
change, and that shores are going to be underwater in the years 2000, 2010, and it keeps changing,
Mhm,
and that's, to me, that's dogma too. If you're going to believe that, there's no science backing that up. All the science that they've been throwing in our face
mhm.
has constantly been failing and failing and failing. So I could say the same thing, is that you believe in dogma with these scientists that are telling us, they're not even scientists really, that are telling us this.
Pretty
Last
much
time I
accurate.
checked, Al Gore was not a scientist.
No.
So if we're going off of what they're saying, they believe in that dogma as well.
Yeah. No, it's true, and it's like I think with the what was it, like that last storm they had in SoCal? Was it last
Hmm.
month? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because they use that as like, oh, look at the climate's changing, look at this. But then it's like, no, well, it had happened before in like, I don't know, was it like 1894 or something? And it's like, well, it's happened, and we're still here. So they like to take those kind of they're rare events, right? But rare means it does happen, just doesn't happen as often. But they like to take those rare events and they try to conflate them and be like, well, this is climate change, right? This is because whatever we're doing here. And and yeah, and if you put your faith in that and you trust those people that are telling you, basically they're constantly moving the goalposts, but you still continue to have faith. That's the thing. It's like, having faith in God is like the goalpost doesn't move. It's like, what you got to do to that, to get to that end, or when you get to that end, to get to have, where you want to go.
Hmm.
It's like with these people, it's like you said, it's like, well, in 2000 this was going to happen. Now it's 2010. No, now 2020, whatever. Now 2020, like it keeps moving. And it's like that's and you have faith in something that is constantly changing versus something that's been set and doesn't move.
Hmm. Yeah, it's solid.
Hmm.
And it's been solid for a very long time. Just again, going through the school system and just popular culture and society and everything. I mean, look, if people say that it's not set up so that they rip away religion from you, I'll disagree with you strongly, because that's exactly, what happens, and the numbers show it.
Mm-hmm.
People are growing up, and they're walking away from their faith,
Mm-hmm.
or historically, like their parents, grandparents, and stuff like that, have been a part of. And I believe that that's the reason why, that they're, that
Mm-hmm.
is happening. And you look at the problems that we have today, is that there's a lot of people that are lost, a lot of people that are um, mentally not well, unstable. I don't know what the proper word would be to describe them,
Mm-hmm.
but I've heard instances where it gets compared like this, is like faith, and like you mentioned, reading the Bible and stuff like that is mental health, because if you read certain passages in the Bible and stuff like that, it shows you, and it explains to you, things that happen in life with family,
Mm-hmm.
different situations, and how to deal with it, and that is mental health. So you go tell me, you go visit a therapist, and don't get me wrong, I'm not talking against therapists or anything like that, but I'm just showing what the similarities are. Okay, so you
Mm-hmm.
go talk to a therapist, and they're educated in the field, and you're going to get their perspective or opinion, whatever they gathered throughout their studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to come to their conclusion,
Yeah.
trying to help you. And how many times have you heard, oh, that therapist wasn't for me,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't help me, they didn't understand my situation. And we're talking about human beings, you
Right.
know. So what you get from one therapist, you're not going to get from the other one or the next one. It's going to be all different,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And when you, to your point, where faith is solid, is that you're going to go to it, and it's going to be consistent. Yes, you'll have a priest or someone give a homily. They're going to give their take on that one, you
Mm-hmm.
know
That one passage.
passage, but the passage is not going to change. It's going to stay constant, and you'll get different perspective and different angles, from a priest, or a homily, or whatever the case may be. But
Mhm.
the point is that in a way, it is mental health. It does give you that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I'm sure throughout the entire Bible, there's a for whatever you're going through, there's a chapter and a verse somewhere in there that's gonna help you understand or help you get through whatever you're going through. And that's the thing with faith. It's just, yeah, life is hard, right? Things are gonna
Very
get
hard.
difficult. Not everything's gonna go our way. But at the end of the day, it's like, we're blessed to be here, right? We're blessed to be alive and able to spend another day with our family, right? To just be in this world, right? But I think, kind of going to your point, is like, Latinos, for the most part, yeah, we're raised on with religion, right? Catholic, Christian, we're either or. It's like we're raised with one of those. So God is a part of our upbringing. And kind of to the point you're making about, like, or what you had read about them, Latinos losing their faith. I can see that because you know we're talking about probably second, third generation Latinos that have been here for a long period of time, that have lived through, not even saying the Pledge of Allegiance anymore, because it says one nation under God. Any kind of prayer, trying to remove the "In God We Trust" off our money, or just any mention of God anywhere. um, TV, just in general, right? It's removed and it's replaced by all the things that we've talked about before, as far as these celebrities, this music, everything else that gets their attention, or manipulates them, influences them to then idolize those people. Because then there's that issue too, right? You lose your faith in God, or don't establish a concrete faith in God, but then you idolize these other human beings that just have, you know what I mean? They're celebrities, well known, but they're, at the end of the day, they're nobody.
Yeah.
But you know, people, if they live their life without God, something else will take that place. And yeah, celebrities. You see people that are like, it's weird, like they get obsessed with things, right? Obsessed with the celebrity, obsessed with
Mhm.
the TV show, uh, social media, obsessed with whatever, and that's their, that drives them, that gives them their, how could I put it? Um,
Belief system.
yeah, yeah, and then
Yeah.
it all becomes about that, and not about, you know, yeah, God is just basically just missing from a lot of people. He was taken out,
Yeah.
from.
I mean, look, it's like, a lot of people make, fun of religion, like it's a cult, and
Mhm,
things like that. And you hear these politicians and people follow them, and these politicians are, um they're being sponsored, or supported by corporations and stuff like that, and they're pushing certain things. And it's like, but they believe everything that they tell them, even though they're not following through with their word, that they said that they were going to do once they gained a certain position in politics, right?
mhm,
And it's almost like, they have their faith in a human being that isn't living up to what they're promising the people,
yeah,
and it's kind of like they're bashing one thing, but they're accepting something blindly, let's call it faithfully,
yeah,
in someone that isn't, following through and stuff like that.
mhm,
And at the same time, going back to replacing certain thing, like, religion with certain things,
mhm,
is like medicine. We'll go back to the mental health thing, is that, instead of exploring and studying different things, and that could help you in religion,
mhm,
then take this medicine, that's going to make you feel better about certain
mhm,
things.
mhm,
It's going to make you uh, it's going to give you mental health and stuff like that.
mhm,
And we're depending on people to prescribe us something to make us feel better, but they're giving us medicine. And going back to, um, you know certain politicians sponsoring certain things, or being sponsored by certain companies and stuff like that. And it's no secret, big pharma does a lot of that.
mhm,
So is it a big surprise that they're pushing you know medicine pills, for mental health? Growing up, kids, you really didn't hear about you know um, attention disorders and stuff like that with kids.
mhm,
It's like,
mhm,
I saw this thing about kids, is that they're meant to be curious, they're meant to test boundaries, and be full of energy and stuff like that. But now we just call it an attention disorder. And
mhm.
here's a pill,
Just relax.
for that. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy that you know faith gets pulled away, but it gets replaced with a bunch of other things, like what we're talking about right now.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think you said this earlier, before we went on. It's like it affects the culture too, right? Because kind of like what I was saying, right? You grow up with in a religious home, you kind of that gets ingrained in you, right? So that as I'm growing up, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do drugs. I'm not gonna, fight people. I'm not going to try to murder anybody because I'm trying to live a life where, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I'm trying to live a life that God would approve of. And like I said, it's like you want to get to heaven, right? Because you know the difference now between good and evil. Um, and so a lot of kids don't have that. So that's why you see like the culture is so messed up, right? You'll see, you know, groups of, I don't know, people running into a store and bashing it all up and stealing stuff. You'll see a group of people jumping a person. Um, you know what I mean? Like all these things that if these
It's
things
like missing.
uh,
Missing like a moral compass. It's
exactly.
like they have no moral direction on
Mhm.
where to go or where they should be going or what path to go in. It's like, this is what popular culture or this is what the influencers are saying, and that's what I'm gonna do. Is it good? I don't know. I don't care. Is it bad? I don't know. I don't care. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's all just they're not thinking about there is no thought on their spirit, their soul, their how it'll affect them, how it'll affect others. It's just they're focused on that momentary gain.
Hmm.
Whatever I stole from you, and now I have it. That's the gain. That's I, you know, I won in a sense, right? I got what I wanted, or whatever satisfaction they get from jumping a person or attacking someone in the street. It's like that there is no any person with the moral compass would not take any joy in any of that. I wouldn't imagine it even crossed their mind. You know,
Yeah.
if anything, people are, you know, I don't ever think like, oh, I'm a hurt somebody. You know what I mean? For no reason, or I don't ever think like, oh, I see what that person has. I want to take it, so I'm gonna do something to take it. Um, Most of the time, I'm thinking of like, okay, I hope nothing happens here, because if I have to, I will defend somebody. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it's a different type of um, mentality. I think yeah, it has to do with the moral compass because I'm sure if I'm somewhere, if you're somewhere, the last thing you're gonna want to see is somebody getting either attacked or something's happening to someone, and you just stand by. You know, and I get there are certain situations where it's like, well, it is hard to do something sometimes. But,
Hmm.
for the most part, you see a lot of these videos where people are doing stuff like that, and it's like people are just standing recording
Yeah.
instead of
Yep.
helping someone out. Um, so, I can't imagine myself as someone just standing around and recording when, a child is getting attacked or a woman's getting attacked. It's just there's it's not in them. And it's because of the lack of faith. It's because of that lack in having a higher purpose, right? That
Hmm.
that you're trying to, in a sense, the best way I could put it is like you're trying to live like Jesus did on earth, right?
Yeah.
Jesus was without sin, and he was, for the most part, helping the people that were suffering.
Yeah. And it
And
was about serving others, not yourself. So a
mhm,
lot of the things that people are doing these days, um, and I don't think, believe me, I don't think it's the majority. I think it is the minority. I think there's more good people than there are, bad intentioned people,
mhm.
people with bad intentions, I should say. But they are the ones that stand out the most. I mean, that's just the way that it is. But um, it's easier to manipulate, people that don't have that moral compass, people that are strong in their faith and, they have that moral compass aren't going to fall for, the manipulation tricks or anything like that.
No, they're not. And one thing that doesn't help that, where it kind of I could see like, oh yeah, I can see why people do lose their faith. It's like a lot of the, what would be the leaders of the churches, they seem weak, you know. they're trying to, how can I put it? They're trying to cater to the world. And there's parts of the Bible that, yeah, if you read them out loud today, it's gonna, in today's society, some people are gonna get offended, you know. And it seems like there's a lot of church leaders that probably aren't wanting to offend people, right?
Yeah.
So they change, not that they change the word, but maybe they omit words so that, you know I don't know, it's like a weaker version of it. And I think that causes people to lose their faith too, because it's like, you know these people aren't even, like we said earlier, the Bible, the word, you know the gospel doesn't change. It's there.
Yeah.
How somebody interprets it, or how, like you said earlier, how somebody says their homily is a whole different thing, because now you're talking about different people, and different priests, pastors, whatever, giving you their take on it. And you can have one that's way over here and another one that's way over here, and they're reading the same chapter and verse.
Hmm.
So I think that's part of the problem. And you know like we've been talking about, it's like in the culture, in society, with entertainment, it's like God rarely gets mentioned.
Yeah.
So I saw something today, because it's funny that this is the topic, but it's like I saw that Kat Von D was baptized, so she posted a video on that. Do you know who that is?
Hmm. Yeah, the tattoo artist. Yeah.
So I saw that video, and then I saw another one that what's her name? Rose, the fighter, Rose Namajunas.
Hmm.
I forget. I don't know how to say her last name. I saw a video of her getting baptized.
Yeah, I saw that. Hmm.
So it's like I saw both of those today actually, and it was like, okay, like this is God bless them. Hopefully they're trying to be better examples, right, in this world. They're trying to live their life through with God in their lives. Yet they're like nobody, right? Nobody's perfect, but it's good to see that, because it kind of like in the culture scheme of things, it's like, oh, you see these, there's people that are easily influenced by, like we said before, people that have status, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, it's good to see like these outliers where people are like, oh, this person got baptized, so did this one. So it kind of gives you like that glimpse at, like, yeah, it's not completely gone, right? And it could get to the point where you know eventually you can have you can restore your faith, or you can have your, if you didn't have one before, you can establish one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think what happens is this is that, and I'm talking about personal experience,
Mhm.
is that as you're growing up, and you go through your teenage years, your 20s, mid 20s, 30s, and so forth and so forth, and you get pulled away from faith, you start feeling an emptiness, a void, and
Mhm.
you don't quite know how to explain it, or you don't know why you feel that, but you're going through life and you're kind of trying to figure it out. So you're like, you know unfortunately, I mean, you get influenced by popular culture. You
Yeah.
think it's something new that someone is trying, presenting to you, and you're like, okay, this might be the way. You pay attention to it, you look into it, and you're like, nope, that wasn't the way, and you still have that void. Something else comes up, and you still have that void, and you kind of go through life, and you kind of come full circle.
Mhm.
And I don't know Kat Von D's history. I don't know Thug Rose's history and what she went through in life, or how she grew up, or any of that stuff.
Mhm.
But if I was to take a guess, maybe they went through that circle to where they ended up, hopefully back in the faith that they had, or maybe, like you said, it's something new to them, period, throughout their life.
Mhm.
But the point is that, you know, I can pretty much bet that they would agree that maybe going through life, they did have a void, and they, they didn't quite know what it was. And maybe, they found, what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
and now they feel that void,
Mm-hmm.
going through what they're going through right now. So, and it's kind of like the point that I was trying to make. What I was going to make is that that's what people go through, is they live their life and there's a void, there's something missing,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they get to the point where they feel it. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing right now is, the fake science ain't gonna fill that void. The idols, even though they feel like they're not idling someone, but deep, they really are. They're
Mm-hmm.
following someone else's lead, on what would make them happy. Money ain't gonna do it. There's so many stories about people that are so wealthy that, and they're still empty. They're
Mm-hmm.
sad, they're empty. They're not happy with their life. That ain't gonna do it. So, you know drugs, is a way to feel that pain, that void that they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't gonna that's not gonna fill the void. It just numbs it, for
Mm-hmm.
them. You go to a therapist, and I know a lot of people have been helped by therapists, and that's really good. But what about the ones that, that doesn't fill their void? Do we ever hear about those? No. So I think it's a cycle of life that you go through, you know?
Yeah. And then kind of like, just as you were saying those things, it's like a lot of those things you mentioned are things that how could you put it? They they're just passing by, right? Like those celebrities, they're here, they're gone. The science of today is gone tomorrow. Drugs, they're here, then it's gone, then it's something else. Like you said, therapists, it's different people giving you different things that are basically just passing by through this world, right? Like we all are. We're just passing by through this world. And, you know, kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's like, well, the, faith, God, the word of God, the Bible, the gospel, it's like that remains,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and because it remains as it is, it doesn't change. I think that's why, like you're saying, right? You can be here and then you cycle through it, and you're just gonna end up back there because at the end of the day, it's my belief that God is the answer to everything. And kind of going back to what we said, the word of God is there, and there's something for you in the Bible, right? That will help you through whatever you're going through, right? That's why Jesus, when he was here, is he's speaking in parables because he's doing that so you can have examples that you could understand, right? You can see what he's trying to. He tells you a story, but you're also learning a lesson through that
Mhm.
story. And it's like there's a lot of those that can apply to everyday life. And again, it's like those stories are the same; they remain, and
Yeah.
and that's why people circle back to it because they didn't change. You can change, right? I can tomorrow, you know, tomorrow I could be like, well, I'm not gonna go to church anymore and pretend I don't believe. You know what I mean? I could try to in my mind say, nah, I'm not gonna do it no more. But then yeah, eventually I believe I would end up back to where I am. And that's believing in God and having faith in him. So yeah, I mean, what you said makes a lot of sense. And I agree with
Yeah. I mean, I can only tell my personal experience, but that's basically what I went through,
you.
Um, early 20s, being pulled away from it, for different reasons. And there's always been a void, kind of coming back, stepping away for certain reasons. A lot of things happening, in church and stuff like that. You hear the news and stuff like that, and that's something that I think, that's a real battle that everybody goes
Yeah,
through.
I have
And
that.
if you're
I see stories all the time that this and this, and it's like, why? You know? And then it crosses your mind. Well, it's like I don't even want to go there anymore. You know?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
it happens.
and it does, and I mean it's a real battle. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where um, evil infiltrates everything. You know, even our churches.
Yeah.
You know, there's bad people, there's evil infiltrating all the time, and that's something that I had to learn. I had to realize when you're a kid, um, you you don't think beyond what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, there's a story in front of you, and you don't think past that. You get stuck with what is presented in front of you, and the reality is that evil infiltrates everything. I mean, you know, we could make a correlation to, so let's, you know, religion, any religion, bad people will infiltrate it to take advantage of people. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people are vulnerable, they'll look for, you know, people that are vulnerable and take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
You go to school, there's bad people that infiltrate school because, you know, there's young kids there,
Mm-hmm.
and abuse them. You know, let's just be real, that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
um, in politics, same thing. You know, they infiltrate politics. I mean, most of the people in politics are freaking evil.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, there's infiltration in everything. I mean, there's counselors, there's therapists, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that abuse that infiltrate that and abuse people. You know, you name it. You know, evil has infiltrated it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the stories that they put in front of us, they're awful, they're horrible, but the reality, and the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that, like, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but you know, evil's gonna do whatever it can, uh,
Mm-hmm.
to take advantage of people and abuse people.
Yeah.
So you know, we can't just, you know, pull the switch on something and say that it's all bad. You know, what's that saying? You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Bathwater. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, we've got to look beyond that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just talking about from my personal experience, what I went through, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that's basically what I went through. And, you know, I come back around to make the realization that um, that's evil working to pull you away from, you know, your faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even the Bible says, right, there's going to be false prophets that saying that you know that they know that they are of what I mean of God, or they'll tell you in a sense what you want to hear, right?
Hmm.
But it's not of God. And like you said, right, it's for the most part it's evil because it's taking advantage of people, it's hurting people. And you know I think that's you know I think that's why we see the things that we see today, because of the lack of God in this country, right? um especially the stuff with the kids, and manipulating the kids, and all that other stuff. It's like, you know, it's sad to see, because you're talking about you're talking about innocent kids, right? Um, and
Just imagine, you know, how you and I, we grew up um, religious. Imagine there being a performance where they're mocking God on a cross on a stage and making just
so
I- you
blasphemy.
know, exactly blasphemous, lewd, just performances, you know. And it's, imagine the impression that leaves on lives on people, and especially if they're young.
Hmm.
Man, that's gotta be such a mind fuck. And
That's what I don't get, man. I don't get how any parent would take their kids to that. You know what I mean? Like, I remember being when we were, growing up, anytime we'd watch a movie, like if something inappropriate came on, it's like my parents would be like, forward it, or don't look,
cover your face.
cover
Yep.
your eye. And it's like I can't for the life of me just imagine how. a parent would take their kid to that and think it's all fucking fine and dandy. Like, I don't know, dude. It's like, it's a free country. You do what you want to do in your own personal life. Up to you. You got that free will to do whatever you want to do. But once you start kind of putting your all your business out there, and not just publicly for everybody to see, it's for the kids also. It's like, that's where you kind of like, nah, that's where you're crossing the fucking line.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, like, no kid should have to witness that. No kid should be talking about that at the,
Look, life is so hard just growing up, and
as it
it's hard
is.
to
Yeah.
say normal. I'm gonna say it, just a normal life without um, having to question your sexuality. I mean, you do that already at a certain stage of your life. Like, your mind goes there, but it's a certain stage of your life when you really start thinking about that stuff. When you're exposed to that at a young age, that's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see things, you can't unsee them,
Yeah.
and you're taking away that innocence. And that's exactly what they're doing. And there's been some rallies and some marches, uh, and look, LGBTQ and whatever other letters and acronyms they added to that is also, look, it may have good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
but we've got to admit that they've been, hijacked too. They've been
Oh yeah.
infiltrated by evil too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So they're being taken advantage of. So when I've seen some of those marches and some of these people that have infiltrated, their movement, because there are, people in the LGBTQ that protect the kids too, you
Yeah.
know, protect their innocence. But they're shouting. Some of these people that have infiltrated them in these marches, they're shouting, "We're coming after your kids," and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that they're all, that's their agenda, but I mean, there's videos out there
Yeah.
that show that. So when they're coming after the kids that way, I mean, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
They're straight up taking that innocence away. And like I was saying, once you see something, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for the point that you were making, for the parents to allow that, where is their moral compass at?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And going back to my original point is, life is hard enough trying to just grow up without that. It's already challenging enough with everything that goes on,
Mm-hmm.
that you put that on top of it, right? It makes it that much more difficult, right? And
Yeah.
imagine what we went through COVID. So how many stories did we hear about, statistics about kids with depression,
Mm-hmm.
isolated, no social life, everything's, Zoom or meetings through the computer and stuff like that. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have that social interaction anymore. They're depressed. You add another layer on top of that. So you've got, normal everyday growing up pressure, you know, being exposed to, things that take away your innocence,
Mm-hmm.
right? COVID, a pandemic, a fake pandemic on top of that. It's like, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to just crush people, mentally break them down, spiritually break them down? That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. 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 That is, I don't know. That's like, that seems like, yeah, that's the plan, right? Eh, wow.
Trying to stimulate them, trying to, you know, with money, drugs, entertainment. I don't know. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
know, we all know that's not going to fulfill someone's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, man, it's
I
temporary
don't
things, you know what I mean? Temporary things of this world that hold no value or give you no value either, right? To your life.
know.
They
You
don't.
know, those things that I just mentioned right now are self-serving.
Mhm.
It's like I'm trying to think how much joy do I get out of those things, you know, self-serving things, as opposed to serving someone else. What gives me more joy?
Yeah.
And you know what I like? I like helping people. That makes me feel real good,
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
especially if I see someone that doesn't believe in themselves, you know, in their selves ability to do something, right? Just something simple like that. And I'm able to help them and see that they are able to do more than they think that they can,
Mhm.
in helping them that way. It makes me feel real good and gives me more joy than, you know, doing something self-serving for me, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
kind of, based on what you said, right? It's like, uh, because it seems like they're trying to tear the kids down, right? And but when you do something like that, it's like you're actually helping build someone up, right? So that feels better, right? When it's like, okay, cool. I hope this person, now you see the person is capable of doing what, like you said, what they thought they didn't do, and then you just see them excelling at it, and it's like it feels good because it's like, you helped in that. You played a part in that, in in somebody being better, you know, than they were before, basically. You added value to it, right? Versus, where you take away all this stuff from, especially like in the examples you gave with the kids, and you give them all this pressure and all that. It's like you're tearing someone down. You're gonna, kids are impressionable. Kids are, like you said, they're growing, they're learning, they're confused, and that's the last thing they need. It's just more and more of that stuff thrown onto them, because at the end of the day, it's like when you're talking about depression and all that, it's like, yeah, it makes people want to give up.
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, what's the motive for wanting to do that to people? I've never really, you know, spoken to someone about that. It's like, what are, what type of people, what type of person would do that? You know, and right now, as I'm saying these words, it's like answering my own question, is someone that's unhappy, that's miserable,
Hmm.
and doesn't want to see other people be happy and miserable. They want to tear them down at the same time too.
Hmm.
Or, you know, they're self-serving and maybe they do get joy out of that,
Yeah.
because we know that a lot of these, you know, career politicians, they've that's how they've gotten wealthy. And I
Serve
can't
self.
believe that they're happy, man. I refuse to believe that they're happy. You know, I always use this example as like, you know, as you're doing things throughout the day, your mind is kind of distracted and it's, you know, thinking about all kinds of different things.
Hmm.
And then when you go home and you lay down and it's dark and you're lying there and it's quiet, that's when your mind just starts going crazy.
Hmm.
There's no more distractions. And if you're unhappy, you start thinking about all the things that make you unhappy. If you're
Hmm.
stressed, you start thinking about all the things that stress you out.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're, what about a happy person that's laying down there, you know, in bed?
Yeah. Yeah.
You sleep like a baby. And it's like you think about these politicians and they're freaking tossing and turning, just
Mhm.
miserable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people that would do that, man, is people with no moral compass. People that, like you said, right? Maybe they're miserable, they're unhappy, and they want to do the same to others, right? You know, have a that's why the one of the main things you hear is like, oh, or the I don't know if you want to call it excuse, whatever you want to call it, but like one of the main things you hear, it's like, oh, this person, especially with the agenda, with the kids, with the, you know sexuality and all that, it's like, oh, because they're not themselves. They're not them their real selves. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like mm, that kind of stuff. It's like, well, maybe you're not your real self. You're miserable. Maybe you didn't figure your stuff out, and now you're projecting your, you know, whatever you got going on in your life onto this kid, and you're trying to normalize your failures or your misery onto this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sad thing because yeah, there's a lot of kids again.
You know,
It,
it's like a cycle. You know that saying "hurt people hurt people."
yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like what you're saying is that it's people projecting their struggles onto someone else. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
And it's a cycle that sometimes I've even thought this is that they don't even realize that they're doing it,
Hmm.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real thing. You know, a lot of people are hurting people or pulling people down without even realizing it.
Mm. Yeah, but yeah,
So
yeah, that's true. But I think now it's like it's what it's focusing on the kids. Like that's where it's more infuriating though, because it's like you said, it's like you're taking their innocence, right?
mhm.
You're affecting their lives so young to yeah, now they're growing up and so fucking confused. And
Mhm.
it's like, you know, that's what as a kid, you're probably confused most of the time either way, as to why is this happening? Why are my parents struggling with the rent? Like, why is this? Why is that? You're confused as to why life is the way it is, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
it's like, as an adult, you're still in a not that you're confused, you probably understand it more, but it's still you still don't understand why things happen the way they do sometimes.
It's like we said in the beginning: is life is hard. Life
Yeah.
is really hard, and everybody. Okay, look, everybody goes through a struggle. You know, some people have it worse than others.
Hmm.
There's a saying: it's like someone's always got it worse. That's it. So you've got a sick family member or sibling or whatever the case may be. You know, someone's lost all of their family. You know, someone's
Hmm.
an orphan, or you know has had like a really bad childhood, being abused, and we can go on and on and on and on and on. But the point is that we all have our struggles. We all got our own cross that we have to carry, right?
Hmm.
So we have to be a little bit more understanding. And we've talked about this in the past, is that with everything that we've been talking about right now, um, I strongly believe that there are more good people in this world than that they are bad.
Hmm.
It's just the bad, garner more attention because they're doing bad shit.
Yeah.
So that stands up a little bit more than people doing good things,
Yeah. Yeah.
every day. So we've kind of talked about good people having that fighting spirit. We need more and more and more of that.
Hmm.
And it kind of goes back to having that open line of communication with your kids, your siblings, and stuff like that, and just let it be known that there are more good people than there are bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that is true, man. The it's how can I put it? Kind of I lost the thought that I had, but it's damn. It left my mind. I wanted to say something and it went away.
Oh
Uh,
well, there's so many different things and emotions, when it comes to this type of stuff, that a lot of people really don't talk about it.
mhm,
But you have heard it before. It's a spiritual war that we're going through.
mhm.
And I think if you want to get really really deep, you know it, that's what life is. It's a spiritual war.
Mhm.
you know. And if you look at it in those terms, people deal with it differently. People battle through it differently.
Mhm.
I know I haven't told a story in a long time, but to tell a story, that I lived, I experienced with someone. Um, so when I had my own shop, I gave work to this one kid. He was pretty young, in his early 20s, and he came from like Puebla or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And he didn't have any family out here or anything like that. So, it just I re- I really didn't even need the help at the shop, but he came by and he was like, "Hey, I'll clean up, I'll do whatever," right?
Mhm.
So, I said, "Okay, well, go ahead and clean up." So I allowed him to clean up and stuff like that, and he did a really good job. So he would leave and come back in a week or two, and he would help me clean up the shop and stuff like that. And it happened several times, right? And I ended up having not a really close relationship, but enough to where I could say that he was my friend.
Mhm.
Okay. And he stopped showing up all of a sudden. And in the back of my mind, I was like, "Oh, I wonder what happened to him, or you must have moved, or whatever."
Mhm.
So a year goes by, 2 years go by, and then by that time I didn't have the shop anymore. And but I was driving by, and I saw him on the street.
Mhm.
He looked homeless, like he'd been living out in the streets and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I stopped by, I bought some water, some Gatorades, and I gave him some money. And I'm like, "Hey, are you okay? What's the deal?" And he didn't want to tell me much because you could tell that he was embarrassed.
Mhm.
He's ashamed type of feeling. And I saw him again, and he looked worse.
Mhm.
And he kind of opened up a little bit more, and he told me, that he had messed up. He was addicted to drugs and stuff like that. And I offered some help. He didn't want any help, but I gave him water again and stuff like that. Then I saw him for a third time, and that's when he opened up a lot more. And he told me that the reason that he got into drugs and he lost his way is because he fucked up. You know, so he explained to me that when he came over, with the people that had crossed him over to come over to the United States,
Mhm.
they had taken the deed to his house in Mexico, and then
Mm.
he was working to pay them back. So he was falling behind on the payments, and these people ended up taking the home, and they kicked out his sister and brothers, his siblings, back in Mexico.
Mhm.
And so when they did that, um, he he was really ashamed, right?
Mhm.
He was ashamed, and he couldn't face his sisters and brothers. They had disowned him and stuff like that, and he turned to drugs.
Mm.
And that's what I'm talking about, is that people go through things in life, and that's how they try to fill that pain, that void. um you, for example, with drugs, with him, lose his way. And that's what happens when you separate yourself, from a faith or a belief or something like that,
Mhm.
and you allow that to happen to you. You lose your way,
Mhm.
and you try to fill that void.
Yeah.
So that's a tough story for me, because I saw someone that was young and well motivated, in a good headspace, and then things like that happen, and then they go off in the wrong path,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's sad. It's sad to hear that, and imagine seeing it. You know what I mean? Um, but I think the thing that I was gonna say, when you had said before, was like, well, I think that's why it's important, as far as like, also, who you're with, right? As far as like your, if you want to call it your circle, or whatever, who you're spending time with, who you're giving time to. Um, because like you said, there are a lot of bad people, you know, but there are more good people. And it's like when you notice or you see somebody that, again, like I said earlier, it has no benefit to you, as far as um, you know, whether you're gonna have any personal growth, or your faith is gonna grow, or you know what I mean, like that there's no benefit, as far as, and not to make it sound self-serving, but it's like there's certain people that have like that negative energy, that have that bad energy, bad influence, whatever you want to call it, right? And in a sense, like, you're not going to gain nothing from those people. And it doesn't always have to be that you're gaining, so to speak, but it's like they take away from whatever, your situation, right? From your happiness, from whatever you got going on. And you know there's people that, you know like you said, they have joy in being in situations like that, right? Or just drama, or they have voids and they're filling them with drugs. And it's like, you can't be around that either,
Yeah.
because the close, obviously, like you said, like you have it in your mind, and right, you have a moral compass. But it's like, certain people, if you're around that all the time, it will eventually, like, affect people. You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like,
No,
well, I'll try the drug now. You know what I mean? Or you
yeah.
start to struggle, and it's like, well, you know, let me have some of that.
Yeah.
I think the more you kind of not have those type of people with the people you associate with, or you know what I mean, like, it it's a better, in the long run, for you as a person. You're better off.
Yeah. I think there's different situations to that. So, there's times, like, for example, I knew that me being around this friend of mine,
Hmm.
when he was in a bad way, he wasn't ready for the help. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And of course, if I put myself in his space and expose myself or family members to it, or whatever, it could be bad. Then he could influence, me or other people around me that I care about. Um, but he wasn't ready. I put myself out there, take him to a clinic, get cleaned up and stuff like that. Refused to, and stuff like that. But I think it's one of those, how I was saying is that, it's like a
Hmm.
cycle. Sometimes you have to go through things in life before you arrive to that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready, type of thing.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think the hard part to realize is that sometimes people, unfortunately, may never get ready.
Hmm.
You have to be adult enough, or mature enough to know that that's a possibility, is that someone might not arrive to that point.
Hmm.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, and just how those people are bad energy. Sometimes they need our good energy. It's like lending, like a hand. I'm here for you, type of stuff. But yeah, you're right. You have to protect yourself. You can't expose yourself to that too much, to the point where it affects you, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It takes you to that dark place where, you start taking, you start feeling voids with negativity. You want that void to be filled with positivity, good things.
Hmm.
So yeah, I agree with you on that sense.
Yeah, and then just kind of this thought came to my mind too. It's like a lot of people lose faith too, because prayer's an important part of faith, right? And I think a lot of people also lose the faith because they feel like their prayers don't get answered. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
people have, it's not a wish. It's not like it's not like God's a genie, right? And I'm gonna pray for this and it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I think people lose the faith because of that. But I think prayer is super important when you're when when things are going good, things are going bad. You know, at any point, every day, I think prayer is really important. And you might not get the answer right away, but there's
Some.
always something that either comes up or happens that kind of, oh wow, like this is the answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um or there's times where, like you said, man, if you do your best to make it to mass, right? um there's been times when I'm at mass, and I have there's things on your mind, right? Because again, you're human, right? You got struggles, you got this going on, work, whatever, family. And you'll go to mass, and then the priest that gives a homily says something, and it sounds like he's speaking directly to you. So it's like you get your answer there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that people definitely got to try to make the time to get to mass, right? At least once a week. um if you can do more, but I think people need to dedicate that time also. I think that's beneficial because, again, you see the community that's there. You
Mhm.
see other people that are there. Everybody's going through their stuff, but you see that, okay, these people have their faith. They're here. And again, moral compass, right? You're just trying to be a better person. You're trying to not live a sinful life. You're trying to make, the best decisions that you can, with the knowledge that you have. So, that's what I think. I think going to mass and praying, every day, in the morning or before you go to sleep, whatever, right? I think if you make time for that stuff too, it also strengthens the faith that you have.
Yeah.
And none of that is encouraged, and on TV. No, nobody's telling you to pray. No mainstream celebrity is telling you to you know go to mass. They're not focused on that.
Right now that you said that, the last person that's told us to go pray, was it Hulk Hogan? Did he? What was it that he used to say? Take your vitamins and
Did you say your
say your
prayers?
prayers or something like that.
No, but I mean, you know, it it's that's why people lose faith, because they don't put the effort, and they're filling the voids with other things. And we got to kind of, you know, a let don't let that happen to us, you know what I mean? We got to keep our
Yeah.
faith. And I think, for the most part, we understand, as you get older, you understand more and more. Life is a struggle. Not everything's going to go your way. And if it doesn't go your way, you're not going to give up. You know what I mean? And you're not going to say, to hell with everything. It's like, no, you learn from it. You pray, you keep your faith. And again, God will get you through it, because, God does test us, right? He tests our faith and how we will react to certain things. He did that in the Bible, in the stories that you read. Like he tested a lot of the you know people in the
Disciple.
Bible,
Mhm.
disciples. Was it Abraham? I'm going blank now. Abraham, right? With sacrificing his son, he tested him, you know, to see if his faith was there. And you know, God will test us. We're no different, just because we know about the Bible and all that stuff, we're still gonna get tested. So, we have to know that, again, at the end of the day, we got to keep our faith, our belief in God, and know that no matter what, He is with us.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. Well said.
All right. Well, I mean, that was pretty good conversation. I don't think we've ever had that conversation.
No, and I think it's important because it's one of those ones that no one really touches. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's like real quick, mention here, a mention there, but it's a real thing, man. And it's, going back to not trying to dismiss, like real science. And science is science. I mean, God created the science. How can religious people be science deniers? It's
Yeah.
like, you've got scientists and doctors that are atheists, and then they're deep into their studies and practices, and then they get to a point where, like, hey, look, um after being a doctor or a scientist and breaking down atoms and everything, there's like a code there. And a
Yeah.
code means that, there has to be someone that
Creator.
created the code. And then they end up being believers
Mm-hmm.
because, who the hell wrote the code? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, to say that religious people are science deniers, or
Mm-hmm.
you're just you're regurgitating a talking point for atheists or non-believers. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
And no one's dismissing psychologists, therapists, or anybody that studies that, but you know that's not the only answer.
Yeah.
You said it, is that for every situation that someone's going in their life, there's a passage. You said it. You go to a church, you hear a homily, and it's speaking directly to you. Mental health, you
Mm-hmm.
understand it, it helps you through it. you
Mm-hmm.
know there's a lot of examples of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not here saying science denier or anything like that. Hey, medicine too. There's medicine that is needed, but then let's be real. There's lobbyists that come from the pharmaceutical sector. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and they're gonna push those pills.
Yeah.
But do you really need them? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when there's influencers behind it and they're pushing pills. I just saw a movie about the opioid crisis and stuff like that, how it got pushed.
Mm.
They're manipulating data and getting it pushed and approved through the FDA and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then you've got doctors being lobbied, paid off,
Yeah.
and then they start prescribing the damn pills. I mean, those are facts. Those are things that actually did happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. For reals. Yeah. God is science.
Exactly. God
Not,
created sciences for
yeah.
real.
Not Fauci.
Not Fauci, no.
uh, Speaking of Fauci, I think he's supposed to be in San Mateo today. I think I saw.
Doing what?
I don't know, giving some speech or something. So
Damn, I wish I could have been over there to boo him a little bit.
we could have sent Christian, but he's camping with the live report. But now, man, I think you know, we need everybody has to make an attempt, to get closer to God, right? And you know, especially this country, we definitely have gotten the country as a whole has gotten away from God. But kind of like you're saying, right? That's why you kind of when it comes to politics and all that stuff, it's like you're trying to vote for people that have morals, that have values. And, that's one way we can combat that, right? And we just gotta, continue to pray, like I said, and maintain our faith. Because sometimes, yeah, stuff that happens in this country, in this state, you know what I mean? It's like, why is it happening? but
Mhm.
we can't give up. We just got to keep on fighting and keep our faith, because the devil wants us to give up.
Hey,
The
it's a
devil wants us
battle.
to sit back and not do anything.
It's a battle.
Hmm.
So we have to be warriors, and
Yep.
we can't lose. We
Yep.
can't allow that to happen. And I firmly believe is that good will prevail no matter what.
Yep.
So, and things are looking up. There's more good people than bad people.
For sure. I agree with that. All right then. Well, good conversation. I think next week we'll have Peter on, so we could talk about more of his campaign and all that. That's kicking off soon. But overall, I think this was a good conversation. Hope people enjoyed it, and until the next one.
Sounds good.
All right then, everybody. Have a good one.